What's going on, guys? Berto's Garage. Today I'll be doing ring gapping. So we'll talk about just the different kinds of piston rings that there are, how to put them on the pistons themselves, and then how to install the pistons, rods, and everything into the engine, to the crank, kind of ready to go. So step one, you're going to want to, have everything situated with, the parts that will work together. And then you'll have kind of three sets of rings. You'll have the top ring, which will be like ring number one, which will be at the top of the, kind of on the top groove of the piston. So it'll be in the highest groove of the piston here. Then you'll have the ring number two, so the second ring. And these ones are marked by color. So the yellow ones, the number two, and then the red ones are number one. So that's how I know, but they were marked before I took them out of the packaging as well. So that just sums it up too. And then you'll have the oil rings. So you'll have the middle grooved ring, which is this guy here, this like kind of weird looking one. Then you'll have a bunch of these upper and lower rings, which we will also talk about, but this is for like the bottom groove, which is like the oil groove. So it'll be that bottom groove there. You'll have one of the squiggly kind of looking rings and two of the straight rings, one on the top of this and one on the bottom. We'll go in depth with that when we get there. But first things first, you're going to want to gap your rings. So the rule of thumb with the ring gapping is generally like 4 thou per inch of bore. Yeah, so with the 383 stroker here that we're doing, I'm going to gap mine at 19, which is at kind of on the higher end of the gap for like my bore size, which is, 4.03. So yeah, like anywhere in between, I'd say 16 to 17 at the smallest gap, and then kind of 19 as the highest gap for like a naturally aspirated kind of 383 or around there, or 350, sorry. If you're going to be doing boost or supercharger or NOS or something like that, then you're going to want to have a higher or a larger ring gap. So, just take into consideration that, but like usually you'd be in the high 20s or something like that, but do your research into what kind of boost you're running and what kind of gap you should be running with the manufacturer with the piston rings. So I just check with them. Now the ring number one and ring number two are going to have different gaps. So the top ring is going to, like I said, I'm going to gap at 19, and you want them generally like 2 thou apart. So if I'm doing my top ones at 19, the bottom ones are going to be 2 thou bigger. So 21 thou is what I go with the second ones. And yeah, these ones you don't have to worry about. These you can throw on the pistons now technically, but I'll do it all kind of in one go. So I'm going to start with gapping ring number one. All right, so step one, you're going to want to, start with, cylinder number two here. So just grab your piston ring, and these are going to be directional most of the time. Like you're going to have a dot on one side or some kind of marking just to indicate which side goes up, which side goes down when you put it onto the piston. And you always want the dot or marking up. So in my case, they have a little, letter E. I don't know why, but that's the indication for me. And the reason behind this is because some rings have like a chamfer to them, or like just a slight, difference in the wall of it, and you're going to want that facing the right direction when it's going up and down the cylinder. So dot up. You also just kind of want to, I don't know, it's good practice just to always put them in that way, but you're going to kind of be careful with these. Put them in like that. And right now we are really tight. So you're going to want to get one of your pistons and just put it kind of level out that ring in the cylinder with one of your pistons. There is a special tool for this that you can just kind of boop, put in and whatever, and it'll kind of set its depth too. But I don't have one, so you can use the piston. Works just as good. So yep, we're kind of even all around there. All right, I can tell without even looking at it that this gap is way too small, so I'm going to go ahead and file a little bit off. So to file the ring, there's like a little machine for it with like a little grinder wheel that you can put the ring up to and kind of spin, and just take little bits off at a time. You don't want to go too crazy with it. But if you don't have that, a file works just as good. You can get like one of these diamond files or like a fine metal file, which I have here as well. So I'll be using these. So I don't want to do this over the engine. So we're just going to come over here. What you want to do is just kind of stick to one side when you're filing, and just kind of hold it close and just ever so slightly. This file sucks, so you know, bad example, but with your brand new nice file, this will kind of go a lot easier. And try to stay straight within the, you know, the face of the ring you're filing here. You don't want to go too, you know, off angle and just kind of messes it up. So you just want to keep an eye on that and stay as straight as possible. So I'm just kind of going a little bit more than I usually would with this, just because I know I'm going with a larger gap than, say, if you're going with something like 17, 16, then you're going to want to go by like just finer increments of filing. So file that down. I also like to just kind of hit the corner a little bit of the ring, just so you don't get any scratches on the cylinder wall. So just want to wipe all those metal shavings off so you don't get nothing in the engine. Come around to our cylinder. We'll put this in, just like we already did. Actually, let me spin it this way so you guys can actually see the gap. Now we're just going to get our feeler gauge. I have a few open here. It's 16 and then 20. So we'll start with 16, see if we're at 16 yet. And we are not at 16 yet. So that means I can keep filing, keep kind of going. And you're going to want, it's better to start slow, kind of file a little bit, check it, file a little bit, check it, then just kind of go ham on this and kind of file too much off, because then you're too far gone. So we'll get our file back here. File the same side. You don't want to, file both edges. Ask me why. I don't know. That's just what I do. I just keep filing the same side. Makes most sense to me. All right, so now we put this piston ring back in the cylinder. We're going to come to our 16 feeler gauge, and our 16 slides right in there, kind of just perfect. So if I was gapping these at 16, I would stay there. Wouldn't go any more than that if that slides in nicely like that. Let's check the 20 just to see. 20 doesn't fit. Now mine only goes from 16 to 20 on this set. I have a different set that goes, finer, but I don't have it with me, or I don't know where it is. But so now that I know the 16 fits, I'm going to take this really slow and slowly file a little bit until the 20 just snugly fits. So I'll just start filing up the ring again, and yeah. So we'll start filing it again. I'm not pushing too hard either. I'm just kind of letting the file do the work. Now here we go. Check the ring again. See if we're good. Get to your 20. And the 20 just almost doesn't really fit yet. But like, I feel like, yeah. I can feel it kind of wanting to go in, but it's not going in. So we're almost there. So I'm just going to file it a tiny little bit more and test it again. All right, so here I found my 19. So the 19 fits in perfectly here. Slides right in. Then when I get the 20 just kind of fits as well. So the 20 is very, very tight, but it does go all the way, you know, through the little gap there. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Kind of just at 20, but fits 19 perfectly. So that's where I'm going with this engine. You can kind of gap them to whatever, you know, whatever fits with your build. That's, you know, piston ring number 1 done for cylinder number 2. So I'll go ahead and, you know, mark this down and keep this as cylinder number 2 piston, you know, piston ring, the top ring. So piston ring 1. All right, so once you got that one taped, marked that it's going in this cylinder, I just like to kind of keep it in there just to, you know, somewhere to put it and somewhere to, that you won't forget where it goes. So once again, this is gapped at 19 to 20 thou. It's just where I want it for this engine. So yeah, so now I'm just gonna kind of do the rest of them. Gap all the number 1 rings first. I already did the other side of them. They're all kind of in the cylinders and kind of ready to go, all at the exact same spec as this side. So now I'm just going to do these 3, gap them 19, 20, and then we'll move on to ring number 2. Well, once you got all your top rings gapped to whatever your spec is, mine is 19. So once you got them all at gapped your number, you're going to start doing the second ring. And with the second ring, I kind of just, I install a piston as I go. So I'll be gapping the second ring, putting the rings onto the piston and putting the piston into the cylinder. So let's get started with that. I'm going to go ahead and grab my ring number 2. Remember mine, make sure this is ring number 2 and you don't put 2, you know, number 1 rings on one cylinder. Mine are marked red and yellow for 1 and 2. Yellow's 2, red is 1. So we're gonna get this guy. Also, my rings are, you know, pretty thin. Like, you might have thicker rings, and that's completely normal. But that doesn't really make a difference until, like, you know, it gets to installing the ring onto the piston itself, which I'll show you what I'm talking about after. But for now, let's get this ring gapped. We'll grab our piston. Center it out here. It's the exact same process as ring number 1. So right there, I can already tell that is almost touching, so we're gonna have to do some filing. So again, same process, get your file. Get your file and start filing away, and make sure you stay straight as best as you can. Put it in. What are we at? We're actually right at 16. Maybe a little close to 15. But for this one, we want to get to 22, so we'll just do some more filing. All right, so here we got the second ring gapped to 22. So we'll take our feeler gauge. Fits right in nice. Not a lot of play. We'll take a bigger one. And the bigger one doesn't fit. So that's how we know we're good. So now I like to go along and put each piston in once I got both rings gapped. So what we'll do now is we'll get the piston and rod for number 2 cylinder and throw it in. All right, so once you got all your rings gapped, what you're gonna wanna do if you haven't already is put your rods on the piston. I have a video going in depth with this. You can go back and watch if you want. I'm just gonna kind of briefly show you how to do it. So step 1 is to get one of these clips. If you got Preston pins, then you know it's going to be a different process. But so these are the C-clip kind of pistons. So these can be kind of tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, they're pretty simple. I think I was going this way before. Yeah. Get it started in the groove. These pliers suck, the handles keep falling off, but. All right, that one's in. So you are gonna scratch it up a little bit, but whatever, who cares? As long as you clean out all the little metal shavings, if any. So once you got the one in, take your lube, put it in there. Kind of put it all around. Now what you're ready for is your rod, but you're gonna wanna get your pin, clean it up all nicely. Just make sure there's no debris and shit on it. So just give it a little wipe with some acetone or something. I already have it on this rag, so we're good. All right, so now you're just gonna I'll put some grease on this too. Just kind of get it all on top of that there. So what you're going to want to do is just get it started in the piston on the opposite side of the pin you put in. So once you get to there, get your connecting rod, and you're going to want to make sure that this is the correct way with which piston's going into which cylinder. So make sure, just in regards to the valve relief, because you want those on top, of course, right? So just make sure they're in the right position. So for me, for cylinder number 2, I have the valve reliefs, on top there. And I want the bigger side with the more material of my connecting rod on the right of it. So now what we're gonna do is just put a little bit of lube everything inside here. Just kind of put it around with your finger. You don't have to move it around, but spread it out. Now put your rod in. And slide it all the way in. So once you got it all slid through and kind of ready to go, now you're gonna get your clean the excess grease off. Because you don't want to make a mess, but now what you're gonna want to do is get your other C-clip. And now put this guy in, so. Try not to send these things flying across your garage. All right, so now we got that guy in. Now you're gonna want to install your bearings. So this is more important that you have this surface clean. And you don't want to put oil on that surface at all. You just kind of want to clean it up. Quick little wipe with some acetone or something. You want both these surfaces clean as well. just for when the bolt goes in there and the cap seats down. So make sure that's all debris free and ready to go too. So you're going to get your bearing, and you're going to get one that says upper. As you can see there, it says upper, just right there. And the upper one goes onto the connecting rod. So now we're just going to kind of line up the notches, kind of exactly like the main caps we did. And boom, kind of place it down in evenly. So this one's ready to go. So kind of put that aside. Get the bottom bearing out. Make sure it doesn't say upper, because sometimes they might package it wrong or something. This one actually says lower, so I don't know if you can see lower. So this one we'll put on the cap. Clean it with some acetone quickly as well. Around the surfaces there, the mating surfaces. Get your bearing. Try not to drop it. Line it up with the notch. And press it in. Kind of inspect it, make sure everything looks, good. We're looking good here, nice and straight, tabs lined up, flush at the top. And now we're ready to kind of put the rings on the piston. Okay, so now we're going to start putting our rings on. So we're going to start with the oil rings here. So what you're going to have is the one jagged ring and then two straight rings. These are different than the number 1 and number 2 rings. These ones don't have to be gapped or anything. They're just kind of there to support the grooved ring. So yeah, that's how these ones come, with a tighter gap, but it doesn't matter. So the way you want to install this ring, you're going to start with this one, is you're going to have that where the ends meet, and you want it to create a W, not an M. So like if the top of the face of the piston's here, you're going to want it, the W facing up like that. So, and you don't want these overlapping or, off center. You want them just to touch. So this is the bottom ring of the piston. So we're going to come here. We're just going to slide it in there, kind of roll it on. These oil rings are, you're good to roll these on. Doesn't really matter. But the other rings, you're going to want to use an expander tool if you got thick rings. If not, then you're good. So yeah, so you're going to want to line that gap up. Kind of, I like to put it right, kind of right here, kind of in line with the skirt, because you're going to line the other two up like here and here. And then the main rings you're going to put facing the wrist pin, which I'll show you. So this one I kind of like lining up just on the skirt there. Then you're going to get one of these rings, and these are not directional, but still make sure that there's no markings that tell you. Kind of make sure they're clean. If we have any shit. So these ones, I'll start with the bottom one, but I'm going to groove it into the bottom, kind of roll it in. Kind of look around, make sure it's, in properly, which we are. All right, now we're going to get our other ring and put it on top of that jagged ring. So just kind of do the same way, roll it in there, make sure it seats on top. So boom, got that one there, we got this one here, and we got, where's the meeting point? Right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to turn that top ring just a little bit more, just to get it away from the opening of the jagged ring, which is right here. So I'm just gonna kind of put it right in line there. So boom. And we have the other one on the opposite side right there. So now we're ready for our ring 1 and 2. All right, so we got ring number 2 here. We're gonna look for that marking on the ring, dot or letter or whatever you got for your rings that indicates up. So once they're gapped, you're gonna throw it on. Yeah, so you can roll them on if you got thin rings. I got pretty thin ones, but you know, it's good rule to just not fuck them up, not bend them. So what you're gonna wanna do is just get a pair of piston ring expanders, pliers, put it in there, and just expand it. And you're gonna wanna line the gap up with the pin on the piston. So just line it up there. And boom. Now we have it on the piston. And make sure these, you know, moves freely, because if they don't, then, you know, you got a problem, like a bunch of dirt stuck in there or something. But the second one, you're going to want to line up with the pin. And then the first one, you're going to line up with the opposite side of the pin. Now, ring number 1, get the dot, face it up again, go on the opposite side. And we're good there. So now this piston is ready to install to the engine. So just double check you got your gaps kind of in the right spot. Second one lined up with the pin. First one lined up with the opposite side of the pin. Double check them. Got a gap here for the upper ring. We got the gap there for the oil groove ring, which you might bring over a little bit. And then we got the other gap for the bottom oil ring over here. So now we're just gonna put it inside the engine. So I don't know if you have a better tool than this, but this is the piston ring expander that I'm gonna be using, or the, you know, the installer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on there and start tightening it down. There's different designs of these or whatever. This one's kind of shit, to be honest with you, but it does the job, so can't really complain too much. All right, I'll tighten that right up. Make sure you got no gaps around there so the piston rings go down kind of fully smooth. Now we're gonna go over to our engine. All right, so now that we're here, we're gonna make sure that our journal, where the connecting rod is going down to, is all the way at the bottom. So just spin your crank. Just spin your crank until you have that journal all the way kind of in line with the cylinder itself. So we got one right down there. I already installed one piston just before I shot the video. As you can see, the other connecting rod there for cylinder number 1. But we're doing cylinder number 2. So what I like to do is just spin the engine so you have that cylinder on top. Like that. So it's kind of level with the world. And now what you're going to want to do is just get your lube up that bearing. Also, I checked the clearances already. So you're going to want to make sure the clearances are good on these bearings as well. But we're going to lube this guy up here with a good amount. This lube's pretty thick, so, you know, it's going to have a little bit more resistance when turning the engine over. But that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and line that guy up there. We're going to get a rubber mallet or something. Just kind of slowly, we're going to want to guide the connecting rod down so we don't damage that journal, right? So we're just gonna kind of lightly tap. Try to tap in the center of the piston. And like I said, I'm gonna have my hand under there to guide the connecting rod. So you're gonna want to keep an eye on the connecting rod. That's the most important thing, that you don't damage that that you don't damage the journal. All right, just like that, we're in all the way. If you have the other expanding tool, it's a little bit better. So, you know, you don't have to be scared or whatever. But now, what we're gonna do is, I'll bring the camera down low here. All right, so we got our connecting rod up here. We're gonna push the piston down with our hand or something and try to get it, you know, try to get the connecting rod square with the crank so you don't nick or gouge that journal. And there we have it. We got that one installed there. So now that we got that all the way down, we're gonna make sure that we have the bigger side of the connecting rod facing the counterweights. So we're good here and we're good on that side. Now you're gonna get your cap. You're gonna get your cap, put some lube on this side as well. Boom. And we're gonna line it up with the fatter side, of course, facing out, lining up with the rod. A good other rule of thumb is the same side where these little notches are, like, is gonna be this side. So the notches line up. The notch is gonna be on here on this one and then kind of on this side and the other one. But what I'm trying to say is the notches are always gonna be on one side of the connecting rod cap, so. Just kind of fit it in there. And then, just don't have to fall. Get your bolts. I got ARP bolts, so I'm gonna be using the fastening lube again. So I'm just gonna kind of dab them in there. So we got one, and slide it in. Just kind of fit it in there just so I don't have to hold it anymore. We're gonna get the other one, and I clean these up really good just to get all the old junk or any little fine metals, if any, were in there. Put it on this side. Now we're just gonna snug them both up. So right when that one like kind of starts tightening, you're gonna want to go to the other one and tighten it. If you're getting any resistance in these threads, you're gonna want to take them out and just check them over. Make sure you know, nothing's in the threads and that you're not gonna mess anything up when torquing it down. So there we go. They're both snugged up nice and even. All right, now get your torque wrench and torque them down. These ones go to 63 foot-pounds. So let's do that. $63. All right, let's double check. Good. Good. All right, so now that you have that installed, you're gonna want play in between both of these. So if you don't have play and these don't move freely, then you got an issue. So this one's all looking good. And you're always gonna wanna turn the engine over after every install just to make sure that there's no clearance issues or anything, right? So I don't have the bolt to go into my crank, so I kind of have to turn this by hand. Just There's gonna be a pain in the ass with a couple of these installed, but it's okay. All right, so this is looking like it's turning pretty good. There's no binding, no resistance. So I will take this as a win now. Now you're just gonna have to repeat that process 7 more times. And like I said, it's just a lot of repetition, but it's all done the exact same way. So whatever I just did for this cylinder is gonna be the same for every other cylinder. And you know, if you're running into clearance issues, then if you didn't get it checked beforehand, you are probably gonna have to go to the machine shop and disassemble everything and get it kind of machined down. Or you can try to do it yourself with a die grinder. But if you don't know enough, you might get into water jackets and then you can really screw up a block. So in my opinion, just best to get the machining professionally done. And then all the install stuff is just, you know, kind of clearances, just tightening bolts kind of thing. So, you know, you can kind of be confident with that stuff. All right, so here we have it. We got all the pistons installed. Everything torqued underneath. Yeah, so this is looking pretty good. We got the intake and exhaust valve reliefs on the right side for each cylinder. We got everything torqued down. We have all the rings gapped. And sometimes you can like see the gap in between this little space here. It won't pick up on camera, but it's right there. So that's where you want them. You want them somewhere in between here. Like if they move a little bit when you kind of compress it, it's okay. Because these, you know, everyone says the rings are going to be kind of dancing around when they're in there anyways. So yeah, so now that we got everything torqued up underneath as well, we are almost ready to kind of assemble the top end. So all we got to do is put an oil pump. So yeah, oil pump, timing cover, oil pan, and then I'll put the fuel pump on too, why not? And then starter too underneath here. Then I also still got to put these 3 little galley plugs back in. Other than that, everything below here will be done. Then we can put our cylinder heads on, all our rockers and everything, push rods, and then our intake. And then we can kind of ready to throw this in the car. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for more. Have a good one.